Hi there everyone, it's special that you are here with me today. We have a chance to connect in a very special way today around the divine feminine or the feminine essence. Now, when we get all these cameras rolling, we can actually have a chance to talk really deeply about this very powerful force. Welcome so specifically to the higher love circle of people. I know I haven't done many videos for many of you on this particular subject, and in fact not many videos at all on that homepage. So I wanted to give you a chance to really interact a bit more with me in these videos. So I will be doing some live streaming on Sundays at 11 once a month, just to get us started. And I thought today a good way to start is to really connect in to a very powerful message for our times. And some of you might know about the things I'm going to talk about today, and some of you might know a lot or a little. Thank you so much to Daisy and Ronald. They're sending some very strong love vibes to us today, and it's a very special day because if I can give you a little brief warning as to how powerful synchronicity really can be in your life, and if you don't follow it, you will be pushed to do things that are actually kind of stressful until you get the right combination of factors for things that are really important for your life. For example, today I wanted to do this video on divine femininity and on the feminine essence, and I actually painted this little picture at the back here with my goddaughter years ago, and it's hanging in a specific space. This is why I was late today to the live feed, because I was going to be set up in another room, but the Wi-Fi just wouldn't connect, so I was trying to find the right place to go, and it just turned out that this was the place that I needed to be, I think, because this behind me is actually one of the most classic symbols of all time that connects to what is called the flower of life. And the flower of life is a sacred geometrical symbol that's been used in ancient times. And if you know anything about geometry, mathematics, and frequency, vibration, you'll know that all of these mathematical combinations lead us into very specific ways of understanding the universe and the way vibration is organized. And this particular image at the back here, over there rather, is the flower of life, which has very, very deep mystical meaning. And this is why a lot of ancient groups, tribes in antiquity, used geometry to actually understand and to explore the universe and how the planets work together and how vibrations are part of this whole unified field. And measuring all of these, they understood things in a way that we are also now compounding and adding to. So this particular symbol has been used by many groups of women who were in fact in honor of or supporting the feminine principle. And there were groups and tribes back in the day that were actually considering God to be feminine. And I wanted to just start with this today because I know some of you might know this and some not, but really the challenge for our times is that we are coming into a very serious merger between the opposites, between right and wrong, between black and white, between love and hate. We are seeing a lot more extreme examples of all of these things in our political government systems. We are seeing a little bit of a swing towards the right side, where people's opinions and people's ideas about what should happen and how we should work together on the planet are being expressed in very extreme ways. And there's a really beautiful video by a man called Matt Kahn that talks very specifically about this, and it really goes into some detail about why we've chosen, and when I say we, I'm talking about the collective we. In other words, all of us put together, we share something called the collective field of consciousness. And this means that in some fundamental level, we are all working as a species to evolve together. And our consciousness level as a species is at a certain place. And so in order for us to evolve, adapt, and grow and become wiser as a species, as a human species, there's certain things we have to play out. And one of them right now is this really important experience of trying to see more of who we truly are, not what we think we are, and not who we want to be, but who we were in the past, who we are now, and what we would like to become. So as we are evolving, we are playing out in our social systems, in our societies, in our governments, in our schools, in our universities, in our workplaces, all kinds of attitudes that for a long time have been suppressed. And we're now having to really deal with them and integrate them. And as some of you might know, there is a very powerful way to understand this whole idea of becoming more whole and more complete and more integrated, because this is really what we now need to do in the world, is we need to be able to integrate more of who we are, accept parts of ourselves that we've always rejected, or we've always lied about, or we've suppressed. And in order to do that, there's one way that we can talk about these things in terms of the white or the black part of a symbol called the yin-yang symbol. And another way is to look at the force of masculine energy and the force of the feminine energy, and how they are working together, and how we can work in ourselves, inside of ourselves, and in our societies, in the whole collective journey that we have as human beings together on this planet, to integrate these two different, very significant forces for our times. And it just so happens that we have had a lot of the masculine force, a lot of the masculine energy in the world. So we've had patriarchy, we've had systems built on very analytical, logical ways of thinking. We've had lots of structured ways of thinking about life. In other words, we value rationality and science much more than we do creativity and innovation. And somehow that's shifting right now. So we are seeing a slight change. And with this change comes a much deeper inquiry. We need to ask much deeper questions about really how we are dealing with our sensitivity, how we are expressing our wisdom, which must come from our heart and our personal experience just as much as our mind. We need to start looking at how we are treating really delicate situations in life. And when we look at these different aspects of human beings, we can see that we're not really that developed in that area. We might be quite developed in terms of building systems and thinking logically and finding quite a lot of scientific evidence for things, but really we need to go further than that. And so one way to begin to really ask yourself where you are standing in your personal life is to look at your masculine energies and your feminine energies. And today this talk is really about how to begin to heal your feminine essence, because really feminine essence is the polar opposite. It's a complementary opposite. It complements the masculine essence. And if it's healthy in us, it will help us to be really in touch with our sensitivity, really in our hearts, and it will help us to feel the feeling of love, to receive love properly from other people, to be able to give love properly to other people, to be really understanding and compassionate without losing our sensibility or our sense of reasoning or our opinion about things, or without really losing our strength and our power and our drive, which is really our masculine energy. So let's look at these a little bit more clearly, because sometimes they get simplified, and that's not really helpful, but also we have to at times capture what we can with language, because language is limited anyway. So when we look at what is a masculine essence and what is a feminine essence, any man could have a masculine essence or a feminine essence. It just happens that many men have more masculine essence. And a masculine essence, the masculine in psychobiology, for example, is actually a force of action, logic, rationality. And in fact, the gift of masculinity, or the gift of the masculine essence, is to be driven. It's the sense of creating what needs to be created to get the job done. So the creativity is not for the experience, and it's not for the journey, and it's not for the sensory, the feeling of that. It's more for the actual task, job to get done. And this is the masculine essence. Now, when a masculine essence in a woman or in a man is unhealthy, it can tend to come out as a kind of defensiveness. So when you're you're driven to do things, you're taking action for things, you are scheduling your day, these can be masculine type, masculine-based actions, right? If you are unconscious about your masculine energy and you start to become far too driven or very much in your action, all you do is you do more and more stuff, you're in the doing of life so much, then you start to lose touch with the healthiness of being in the masculine essence, and it actually makes a kind of defensiveness happen, meaning that it's very easy for you to actually react very strongly. It's a reaction that is not like the feminine essence, which is a reactivity, but it's more defensive. It's like you protect yourself more from what you have been made to feel is not good enough. So this kind of defensiveness, if you're showing a lot of it in your life, or if you have it in you, somewhere that you need to go and work is on your masculine essence. It means the way that you put yourself out in the world, the decisions you're making, actions you're taking. This is where you need to start looking at maybe leaning back a little bit more into your life, taking a bit more rest, relaxing a little bit more, because you might be overworking your masculine essence. And you'll know if you have any pain or any problems on the right side of your body. So often the right side of the body is responding to what we call the solar energy, and solar energy is from the sun. It's a very specific kind of force of light and heat that our body is picking up and responding to. And so when there's not a good circulation of that energy, we will also then have problems in that area of the body. And solar energy is matched up with masculine energy. So we say Father Sky and Mother Earth, and this is again from ancient traditions and also shows up in a lot of yogic philosophy, and a lot of Tantra talks about this very important marriage between the masculine and the feminine, and the divine marriage actually between these forces, these two essence types. And this is now how in your physical body you will also need to marry these two forces, these two energies. So the masculine energy is like the bed that the river flows into. So the actual structure that holds the water of the river to flow into the sea, that structure is like the masculine essence. Another way of understanding it in tantric explanations is to talk about the masculine essence like a mountain that is the still point. The mountain is the point of rock solid support and structure that is formed, well formed. So it's not a literal translation that everything earth is feminine and everything sky is masculine, but if we look symbolically at all these connections, it's more a kind of quality that this masculine essence has. So we need to be the riverbed and the river in life, because for the river to flow into the sea, we have to have that really good combination in us, which is the structure that holds the water and the water that just flows. So the masculine essence is this structure. If there is too much defensiveness in your life, or if you are doing too much in your life, or if you have pain or stress or problems, conditions, organs on the right side of your body that are not functioning well or unhealthy, you'll know that there is something out of balance with your masculine energy. Let's move to the feminine. The feminine, the most powerful way to understand the feminine is to know about it, first off, that it's been deeply distorted and it's been misunderstood, because people think femininity means passive, as in not doing. But really, feminine essence is passive in the sense of being, not doing, but being. Being means to be really present and really connected and deeply attuned to what is happening around you, perceiving what is happening around you, and being present with that. This is a kind of feminine quality. And when the feminine is received as a gift, when we understand the gift of this feminine, it is the ability we have to be receiving, to be absorbing. And it's quite interesting paradox then, because obviously we also associate a lot of giving and nurturing to the feminine essence as well. So you can see what I mean by this is not a conversation about what is logically working together, because logically working together stuff is belonging only to the masculine part of us. The feminine part of us understands things in a symbolic way, in a creative, intuitive-based way. It doesn't necessarily operate with logic and rationality. It actually has a different kind of wisdom. So when your feminine essence is out of balance, which for a lot of us it really is, especially for men, you will see that you are very reactive. And really the point of this conversation today is to understand the impact of that. So if we are not healthy in our feminine essence, we end up becoming very overdriven, very forced towards progress, information, technology, and not really able to manage a lot of balance between these two forces that actually allows us to become more whole and complete and much healthier in how we are behaving in the world, how we treat ourselves, and how we are actually evolving on our path, both as a human being on the path with everyone else, evolving with everyone else, but also for our own personal potential to really become realized. So when the gift of the feminine is to be receptive, it also refers a little bit more to this real wisdom of being able to lean back a little bit in life, to be able to sit back, rest, relax, tune in, and to sense the environment and to practice this very amazing power of awareness in your state of being. So think about the part of you that is really driven and really doing things all day long, and then this part of you that can rest. That would be a very simplified way to understand the two different forces. So the one is getting us up and going out, and the other one is getting us to become internal, self-reflective, restful, and to receive. So these two forces need to be balanced in us all the way through our lives. Otherwise we start having physical problems, health problems, and as we can see as a society, we are having quite a lot of problems because our society is not balanced and it's not healthy in the feminine energy whatsoever. So if a masculine essence is conscious and healthy, it can turn into diplomacy. It's the ability to do things and to provide actions, to make things happen, to build buildings, but to have a certain kind of integrity and diplomacy about how that building fits in with the natural environment and what impact it has on the natural environment. This is an example of a healthy feminine and masculine cooperation in a human being that's maybe an architect. He will be thinking about ways to synchronize and integrate that building into its natural environment or into what stands around it. When a feminine essence is healthy, it becomes responsive. Instead of being reactive, as we said, the unhealthy feminine shows up, it becomes responsive. So it's this power that we all have to actually lean back after someone's insulted us and to bring a response to that is mature, that expresses maybe how you feel, and that doesn't necessarily insult that person but tells them you don't like how they're treating you maybe, and or to do it in a calm, contained way so that you don't create more reactivity at a time when obviously someone's frustrated or upset and saying that you are doing something to hurt them or to offend them. So this kind of maturity, emotional maturity, to be able to respond is what the feminine gives us. And the masculine is giving us this ability to do our actions in life, to be driven and to have like a motivation behind us. And then when we are conscious in that energy, we can also do it with a kind of respect for what's around us. And to know that we're not in overdrive and we're not sort of just doing for the sake of doing, or doing to stroke our egos, or taking on some kind of project because we have to prove something. So these two essences are in each one of us, as I've explained. The feminine works with the lunar energy on the left side of the body. So when we have deep meditation practices, sometimes we can even tell which energy is being received into the body by which nostril is actually breathing through the air, because we don't necessarily breathe through both nostrils at the same time. In fact, it's actually a sign of a deep meditative state when that actually happens, because it means both energies are running through the body and through the spinal column. But until that point, most of us are breathing through one nostril, and that is reflecting which hemisphere is being stimulated. Sometimes actually a more complex process through the spinal fluid, and also how you are picking up the energy from the sun and how you're picking up the energy from the moon to actually regulate your body, because you need both of those forces to keep your body in balance. So why is it so important for men and women to have a deeper look right now at their feminine essence? There is a very specific time for us all to work through right now on the planet that, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, is being expressed right now in a lot of defensive and reactive behavior. So we have actually all kinds of comedic drama, sitcoms that are really playing out that drama between the unhealthy masculine and the unhealthy feminine, which is a certain kind of defensive energy meets a reactive energy. And that actually can be quite funny. It's what tragedy is based on. It's what a lot of our human drama is about. And so our job really in this time is to be able to work a little bit more with ourselves, work with what we see outside of ourselves, to get in touch with the part of us that can lean back, receive, and move into our heart space. And so, in short, a healthy feminine essence is a deep capacity to love unconditionally and to flow in the receiving of love and the giving of love. Now, love is not a very cool word to talk about unless you're in some kind of psycho-spiritual meditation group or in a workshop, or if you're in a church somewhere, or maybe if you're talking to your kids and maybe to your partner, your life partner, or in your marriage. But really, love is actually a very interesting point of study right now, and I'm glad it is, because they are starting to find out what is it exactly about the feeling of love that is so powerful on the neuroscientific level, on neurobiology. So what is happening to the brain when we are feeling love? What is actually happening in our physical bodies when we feel the feeling of love? And why is it such a powerful force? Is it true that love can move mountains? And it's actually fascinating to know that there is no other frequency, we call it, but there is no other measurement in any of these studies that shows the same kind of information as this feeling of love that we can all feel. So, what does this mean? We as human beings are being challenged right now to really look very deeply at how we are working with our feminine essence inside of us, because it's quite obvious that we are not well developed on the right side of our brains, and this means that our feminine energy is not running and flowing correctly, that we have actually violated the planet, and the planet does have a feminine essence. So this planet that we live on, Earth, is actually a feminine essence planet. And somebody in the workshop once asked me why, and I had to go back, and I remembered a few months ago I was reading again some ancient texts that talk about the planet being feminine, and in Greek even we call the planet feminine, not masculine. So why is the Earth feminine? It is a life-giving, nurturing planet that is receptive of us being here and giving to us to evolve. So there is a kind of beingness in the planet, and we as human beings have violated that. And so we've lost our connection a lot of the times. A lot of people are getting it back, but we need to find how to rebuild this connection between our most significant mother and our most nurturing, supportive base or foundation for the entire life that we live, and that is our planet herself, this planet that we live on. But because we've had a lot of progress and a lot of moving towards action and development and progress, we've started to really develop far more of this left brain hemisphere, which is analytical thinking, logical thinking, the industrial part of us. And I was writing a report today on children's brains and how they develop in the educational system, and what the problem really is when children are underachieving, or when children are having problems, or when they are having tantrums. And it all stems back to this idea that we are not in balance with our right hemispheres and in the art creative force as children enough to grow and mature and actually become very well balanced any longer. We are actually forced in schools to develop much more quickly than we are designed to, or much more in an unbalanced way on the left hemisphere than what we are supposed to. And this is why a lot of children might struggle. So the whole idea of achievement, the whole drive for success and money, all the greed, all the pressure for success is really a problem for us, in that it makes us so unbalanced. So now the way to start healing this energy is depending on where you find yourself, because for some of you, you might be really ready to connect with the feminine essence in a deep, powerful meditation. So if you're a woman and you want to go into this divine feminine energy and heal your feminine essence, I would be recommending for you a very specific meditation that you can find on my FemD group. And it's actually what I call the full thing, right? It's actually an Indian lady teaching about Shakti energy and combining that into a lot of the language and lingo and the concepts related to the feminine essence. And this means that she talks about how this relates to what we've called the goddess energy, or the God essence, I like to call it too, borrowed from a great friend of mine, Deb Salem. And that is the essence of godliness that we are all able to access, that all religions teach us how to emulate and how to bring more and more into our bodies through this feminine essence. Some people even say in yogic traditions that the feminine essence is actually feminine in terms of the Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit is a force that is actually coming through the earth, moving up and into your body and into your brain, and then enlightening this crown chakra. So if you are a woman wanting to connect with your God essence, and if you're wanting to heal this feminine sensitivity and this reactive energy inside of you, one way is to begin to connect very deeply into your chakra system, your energy body, and to start making this powerful link up to the lunar energy. You can do this in yoga, you can do it in meditation, you can do it through ecstatic dance, through belly dance, you can do it through tribal fusion dance, you can do it through any kind of dance, but make sure that the dance has some aspect of freely expressing yourself. So very contained, structured dance will not do the job. It needs to be also free and flowing, like that river that I was talking about, the water that runs through the riverbed, that is the feminine essence, the water flowing in dynamic movement. So when we speak about the masculine being the mountain, we speak about the woman being the storm, or being the river, or being the wind, or being the force of nature that is not still like the mountain. So a lot of relationships, to come back to this real question now about how you might heal your essence if you are a man in a relationship, or how you might be healing this essence if you are a woman in a relationship. If you're a woman, I have a deep meditation for you. If you are a man, I would like to share with you some really important teachings by a man called David Deida, who talks a lot about the sacred masculine and the superior man. And this is really the work that we have to do in our lives in order to have healthy and happy relationships, because we will not be able to get away with it any longer. We do need to really work on balancing ourselves so that we can heal the wounds from patriarchy that sit in both men and women. So, for a man, if you are noticing that your female essence is confusing for you, or you're not quite sure what it is, or you're not quite sure how to heal it, I would like you to look at the way that you express your creativity in your life. I would like you to look at the way you sense your feelings and the way that you feel about your partner, maybe even the way that you are feeling towards your mother and your father. This will give you a very good indication about how comfortable you are with your feminine essence, because your feminine essence is your ability to really feel into your feelings, to express them, and to feel that you can bond and come close to people, that you can build intimacy in relationships, and that you can also express yourself when you feel very sensitive or hurt or insulted, or even when you don't feel like you are living up to what the expectation is for you to be a man in the world. To be able to work with that and keep your sense of strength and dignity when you do that. This is how well you manage to connect to this masculine essence in a positive way, but also how then you keep this feminine essence healthy inside of you. So if you're a man and you're struggling with any of this, look up somebody called David Deida. I'll be doing some posts on the High Love page about that, and I also have some deeper reports for you to read, but those will come later. So for all of you watching today, thanks for tuning in. We were only going to spend about 45 minutes together. I'm glad that you could make it here and that you gave a little of your time. And to Cheryl, Ronald, Irene, thanks so much for coming on to this call. I would like to let you know that this page is doing so wonderfully well. There's some very special people connected to this Higher Love group, and they're from all over the world, and some are starting to post here. If you do watch this video and you have something to post about relationships or about the new way to build deeper, lasting, and overwhelming love and affection, outstanding partnership in the world, we would love to hear from you. But if you're posting about other stuff, not really relevant, so post it somewhere else, or ask me if you can, and I can give you some input on that. Either way, it's still lovely to have all of you here doing whatever you're doing and learning the way you are about whatever you are confronted with on your journeys, and sharing it then with us on this page. So as I say, there are a few things to look into. One is the divine femininity for women and how this links into God essence. And if you like, you can follow the meditation that I will be putting on my FemD group. If you want to come into that group, you again request to join. It has a special focus on divine femininity and a special focus on drumming and rhythm, and how these were very specific practices used to refine the feminine essence for women in ancient times, and how it's being born again as a new way to do that. And for men, I will be sharing with you some posts on a man called David Deida and how he talks about the superior man and the sacred masculine and how important these two energies are. I want to leave you with one last clue, and this is your relationship with your mother. There has been enormous amounts of research done in psychology and psychobiology and even in neurological processes, and how our infancy, our experience of being a baby with our mothers really affects our ability to trust the world, and how to develop intimacy has a lot to do with that. So there's a lot of attachment theory, we call it object relations theory is another thing that we call another area of work, and the imago is another concept that explains how as human beings we collect a certain kind of imprinting from our experience of being cared for by our mothers, and that influences our way of building relationships. If you haven't done any of that work, or if you haven't done enough work on that relationship with you and your mother, and how to heal whatever you didn't get or whatever you didn't receive, because you might have gotten it but you couldn't receive it, and absorb it into yourself, then I would advise that you do work with somebody on the relationship you have with your mother. If you're a man, it's very significant because it's the opposite sex parent, and if you're a woman, even more so, because healing your feminine essence has everything to do with forgiving the world for all the limitations that the world puts on us about how to feel deep feelings, how to be sensitive in the world, how to create, and how to be these amazing artistic expressions of nature in the world, and not be judged and not be affected or not be blamed for what is a natural feeling. For example, when you get angry, all our training in our lives from parents and families just came from whatever they knew. So there's lots of things our mothers couldn't tell us, and there's lots of things our families couldn't teach us. And so we have to do some personal work to heal a lot of the parts of us that we feel are unloved or unaccomplished, or that are not enough, or that people don't like and people don't want. So that work is very deep in the way that I use it. It's really Enneagram work, but before that it's kind of standard psychotherapy where you might work with someone on this bonding that you got with your mother. And the truth is, if and when you really heal that relationship, that is when you can accept and absorb the feminine essence into your life in a really healthy and holistic way. There are a lot of people teaching all forms of Tantra nowadays. I wanted to say something about this. And I think in all fairness, there's something to get from every teacher. But if you really do want to know the deep mystical tradition of Tantra, it's really to understand how the masculine and feminine inside of you, and the masculine and feminine inside your love relationship, and how the masculine and feminine everywhere in the world, outside of us, in the planetary dimension, relates back to our health and happiness and our ability to live into our fullest potential. And there are very sacred practices that need to be done when your body is pure, when you are meditating, when you are able to do a kind of deep study of yourself and your needs. So try not to do too many of these programs or teachings in a superficial way. If you really do want to go deep into the subject of Tantra, you need to take the traditional path and really do it respectfully so that you can get the benefit. Otherwise, it really, I don't think, is worth it, because it just messes people up a lot in their way of understanding these things. These are deep mystical concepts. So it's good to do them in a way where you can really get the fullest benefit. Having said that, though, there are some great books to read. There's one called Woman's Code, which I recommend. There's another one called Pussy, which I recommend. And there's another book called How to Get the Love You Want that I recommend. And then there's another book on the love languages that I recommend. And there is a few more that I recommend for single people that are looking to attract partners. And for that, you can have a look at this Higher Love page, and you'll get a sense of certain authors that I trust that are, in my opinion, going deeper. Because as I've explained, you can talk about feminine essence on the surface and you can go and look at how you deal with your feelings. But if you don't go deep enough to really understand how you absorbed the ability to trust the universe so that you can create intimacy and relationships with other people, that learning that you do will be on the surface level of the mind. It's not going to go deep enough into the core wound that you might have, or that you might still be playing out or acting out in relationships, that actually pulls you away from being able to be, let's say, a woman in her feminine essence to attract a man who can be standing as a man, who can support you, protect you, love you, and be solid in his feminine energy as much as his masculine, if not more in his masculine. And if you are a man, again, you might project a lot of very uncomfortable and problematic things onto a woman because the relationship with your mother is still unhealed. So if there's anything you get from me, let it be that you do some deep psychotherapeutic work on the deepest wound, on the ability to bond, on the sense of intimacy, so that you can really heal this feminine essence. And if you do want to know more from me about how to do that, sign up to one of my tribes and you will get some loads of free content really on the newsletters. But also you can go into a discussion with me for half an hour about really what work you need to do, and I can give you some advice on that. And that's only available now for the month of October. After that I close down, and then I might open up some calls again next year. So to all of you watching and participating, there's a lot of other platforms to work on, and if you are interested in more, try out the FemD for women, drumming and feminine divide work. We go deep into mystical teachings. And then the Hellenic A Consulting Group is really where I start doing some training for people, free training there. And you can jump onto that platform if you need to ask any question about your family, your child. That's a good place. And then this one is really for relationships. And if you are single wanting to attract love, stand by, because I've got some more gifts coming. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.